Hi, Carl Ford here in Atlanta at the WebRTC #4 Conference and Expo. And I'm here with Graham Holt, who is the EVP of Sales and Marketing.
That's
is it?
correct, yes.
And Daitan Group. You know, I get confused sometimes when I look at your guys' website because you're kind of doing so many things. But would I consider you like a systems integrator for major projects using WebRTC? Is that a fair cop?
That's correct, yeah. I mean, our background is in telecommunications and really traditional telecoms, but over the past 5-6 years, that's become much more cloud-based communication. So WebRTC was one of the technologies that, as soon as we saw it, we sort of grabbed hold and we jumped in and started learning about it so we could help our customers sort of bridge over to the next generation communication solutions.
Okay, and what kind of considerations do they have to make in their deployments? Like, what do you kind of make them aware of? Is an SBC always necessary? What kind of things do you need in the development?
Yeah, I think I always advise people it's really about the use case. So think about what is it that your users really want. I think one of the early misconceptions was, with it being a web technology, it's just a case of taking the JavaScript code, put it in, and you've got two guys talking. And that's true. You can build that demo, but if you need a scalable, reliable solution, your WebRTC is a part of that. But you've got to think about the other elements like the SBC. What effect is the turn server going to have in your environment? Do you need to interoperate with other types of equipment and other infrastructures? And those are the things where you quickly go beyond needing to be a web developer, and you start to need to understand a lot more about protocols and networks and how data travels across the internet.
You may be the first guy I've asked this question, but do we actually talk about Erlangs and when we talk about turn and thinking about how much congestion we have on the network?
We could. Some of the things we've learned, we actually built a demo out using WebRTC because the work we do for our customers is proprietary, so we can't really talk much about that. But we build our own demo suite. One of the things we found there was, depending on what sort of components you tend to select, you're going to get very different types of performance. And one of the things, for instance, a lot of people now, we're following the whole NFV space as well. So a lot of people trying to go software-based, going virtualized, and even trying to go into Amazon Cloud with communication solutions. And once you get into that space, you've really got to think about, particularly on the media plane, what's really going to be happening to that data, and are you really going to trust your quality of service and trust your throughput to some cloud vendor.
Okay, and in that realm, typically, what's the length of a project with customers? And do you start at the very beginning, like do you help them design the specs? Are you agile and Scrum and all that?
Yeah, it tends to vary a lot. So our basic model, we try to engage with companies in a long-term relationship. So most of our companies, our first customer 10 years ago is still a customer today. But we always start with the first project. And sometimes that's a short consulting project. So we've done a 6-week project just to look at how WebRTC is going to integrate with a customer's current environment. Once we get into development, if we're building something like a WebRTC gateway, that's probably going to be a 6 to 9 month project to get something that's real production, sort of telecom grade type solution. But what we find is we do work in an agile approach most of the time. So by the time you get to the end of the first release, you're ready with the next wave of features. So the relationship just continues from there.
And typically, how many weeks is the engagement? How many man hours involved?
I would say we tend to build teams, optimal sizes between 5 and 15 people. If it gets bigger than 10, we tend to split into multiple Scrum teams just for efficiency. Normal sort of ramp-up time. Once we start talking to a customer, we try and make sure we get a team together that really fits the needs of that particular project. So that can take 15 to 30 days to get the right group of people together. And I would say it really depends on the type of project, but a WebRTC client, that's a pretty straightforward project. That's probably 1 or 2 months. Building something more like a gateway solution where we're dealing with media and signaling conversions, that's probably going to be more 4 to 6 months to get something up and running. And then it depends how scalable that needs to be. Do you want redundancy in the first release? So a lot of different considerations affect the duration of the projects.
And is there a specific part of the carrier marketplace that you service? Are you good with the wireless folks, or the wireline folks, or the cable operators? Who's interested in WebRTC that's working with you? General industry.
I think it's most of it's not coming from the carriers. There's certainly we're seeing more interest there now, but the initial interest we got was more from the video conference type companies. Contact center is starting to get very interesting now, so they're realizing it's time to put WebRTC into the contact center. And then some of the vertical areas, we've even done projects with the guys that do sort of prison visitation systems, and healthcare is obviously another example where I think WebRTC is going to take off big time.
Excellent. Graham, thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.